Welcome everyone to another episode of No Investment Advice. We got Trung Phan here. What's going on, man?
Yo, man. I'm just I'm
fresh
back.
off the CNBC circuit.
Oh, I added them at least 100 times between the last appearance and this one, and they finally came through. I think there's like, yo, we gotta get this guy offer back. Done. All right, so
you were a crypto analyst, man, which is hilarious because people who listen to the show know you don't. You're fiat fan to us, but somehow you were commentating on it.
I got a lot of DMs being like, yo, dude, you don't even own crypto. I'm like, yeah, that's the joke. That's the beauty of it. CNBC wanted 4 crypto experts. They found 3 in me.
It's incredible. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but we also got Jack Butcher, founder of Visualize Value. Also, he's been going off on BitClout this week. So newly followed by Pamela Anderson. How you feeling, Jack?
You for it.
You can confirm that, sir. Whatever, we'll pretend it is. But most importantly, Bilal,
we got
our first guest.
Our special guest today, Alex. What's happening, man?
Not too much. I am very excited for this.
Alex, could you tell our dozens of listeners your exact background? And all I'll add is that Alex is one of like the only tech people I know that has shitpost in his bio, or he used to. Literally, the word shitpost was in his bio, and I knew we had similar energy when I saw that. So we have to hear Alex give his brief real life bio.
Oh man, my quick background: spent the last decade in startups, unfortunately, and still in startups now. So, but at a lot bigger of a company. So, and I love to shitpost.
Right, and you invest, right?
And I what?
And you
invest. I do. Yeah.
Right. So how do you, so the question I had, and the reason why I wanted to really bring you on here to grill you on was, so kind of real professional stuff going on here in this corner of the Zoom screen, unlike the rest of these jokers. How do you marry the fact that you love shit posting and that you frankly will potentially piss people off with the fact that you have a real job, and that you do invest?
So I'm very lucky that I would say a lot of the people on our team shit post as well. It's not just me. And so I made a joke about this on Twitter this week. I was like, my mom always warned me to watch what I say on the internet growing up. And then my boss was just like retweeting everything today.
Wait, and your boss is actually, I think the Carbon CEO, was he the one that took a jab at Andrew Wilkinson over his post about, there's a really viral post. I think your CEO is a shit poster too. Is that right?
He's a big shit poster. But I don't report to Aaron, but I report to Io, who's our VP of product. And also, like, you should see what happens before stuff actually gets on Twitter.
Like, you guys have like a group chat, like swapping these ridiculous memes and ideas. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, we do multiple group chats.
What is your favorite personal shit post, and what is the best one you've seen from outside your account, from like a real professional?
Oh man. So you're asking what my favorite one is that I've done.
The one that everyone should look at right now.
Well, I've got the one that's pinned to my profile is pretty funny because it just borderlines truth of a day in the life of a product manager. And so it's like interrupt a meeting at 10:30, stand up number 2, go for a hike and meditation. And I'm pretty sure that's what actual big PMs do at big companies. And then I don't know, the best one that I've seen, I'd have to go back and look. I don't have one off the top of my head. I do laugh at every single one of your shit posts though. Oh, so nice. it's gotta be one of your like 5,000 that you've done.
All right, amazing, man. I'll take that. So to summarize, is the reason why you can get away with shit posting is because everybody that is above you at your company does it.
Yeah, and also I feel like at this point, that's just what everyone expects of me on the internet, and so it is what it is. I don't think I can post a serious post now without being like, "This is serious." Like, please don't take this one as a joke.
It is such a fine line, though. I mean, Jack will know this. He has like a serious account and he has a meme burner account because, I mean, Jack, what's your philosophy? You don't want to mix. You want to stay true to the one brand. I mean, is that the thinking?
I don't know. It's, the line is blurring, man. Like, I think the ship posting strategy might be a better trust building exercise on a long timeline than taking yourself too seriously. It's a bizarre. I think the further you scroll back the timeline, for me anyway, I'm like, you know, the longer I look back, the more I'm like, I wish I was just joking.
So you were already doing fortune cookies at like 100 followers. You were like
0 followers.
So you've been fortune cooking the entire way. It's not like when you hit us. Oh my goodness, man. That's pretty funny, man. All right, fair enough. Bilal, I know you got a million topics to go through. Let's just start ripping through them.
No, I mean, well, yeah, I guess the other thing is, Alex, just to give us a quick little background, because I guess we didn't even really fully go into it. You work at Carbon right now. You had a company before, you invested too, right?
Yep. Sold a company back in 2018. So that was like the first exit that I had. Stayed with that company for a year, started another one end of 2019, left end of 2020, and now I ended up getting recruited into Carbon and have loved it. So that's the serious bio. I've spent time between fintech, SaaS, and now health tech, which is brand new for me. And I will shamelessly plug that we're hiring for any of the dozens of people listening to this episode.
Well, I love how Bilal like pulled this back into like seriously. He's like, all right, bro, you're fucking derailing all this.
No, like
when you have a guest, you gotta ask this guy what he does. Okay, dude, hold on. Okay, I actually do have a question. What does Carbon Health do? I have no idea.
We are full end-to-end primary care and urgent care, meaning that we both build the software that our doctors use, our patients use, how we order labs, diagnostics, things like that. And we actually run the primary care and urgent care clinic. So we're opening 1 to 2 physical locations a week right now.
It's been a crazy week. So for people listening, what is the date today? It's Thursday, May 20th, because that's quite key because lots is changing every single day. So depending on when we get this out, hopefully we'll get it out pretty quickly. This has been a crazy, crazy week in crypto world. Obviously, we're all fans of it here. We've been talking about it every single episode. So maybe we should just paint a picture for people who aren't really fully in that world and don't know what happened. I feel like, Trung, you probably wrote about this week or even this morning, or someone on your team did. So
I mean, like, we have to preface this by saying I don't own any crypto, which is the funniest joke, which right? I'm like the dude that writes about football but has never thrown a football in his life. Like if I was on the field, I literally would be completely useless. So I mean, I'll just do the Coles notes just because I can do it. And you do it.
Well, tell us what you told everyone on CNBC because they seem to think you knew. So.
Oh my God, hilarious. Okay, so May 12th, Elon tweets that he's no longer accepting payments for Bitcoin. Bitcoin had gone from, I don't know, like 30,000 to 60,000 when Tesla announced that they're putting 1.5 billion on their balance sheet. So Elon literally is just like the puppet master controlling the price of fucking Bitcoin, right? And May 12th, it's been 8 days. There was a massive sell-off yesterday. It all just kind of, all kind of cascaded through. I think somebody said a bit of it had to do with the margin call. The TLDR, it went down more than 50% from its highs of 65,000. Went down about 30. Now it's back up to 40. And Elon, yesterday, Mr. Puppet Master, threw the diamond hands. A couple hours later, Bitcoin's back up like 20%. So I think Jack put an amazing tweet. I think I'll just summarize this. Okay, so Elon's getting so much hate, right, from the Bitcoin community. A bit of me was just like, man, this is kind of like just unsafe, right? Like he's actually destroying people's personal wealth, right? Like, and this guy walks, you see him on TMZ all the time. This guy's just on the street signing autographs, right? It doesn't take that much for a crazy dude just to stab or try to stab him or shoot him. It wouldn't be the first time that this happened, right? Honestly, right?
Is that where Trunk's mind went?
Like, it's dark, but like, man,
it's true.
John Lennon was fucking shot by an alleyway. I mean, anybody who watches Forrest Gump knows that John Lennon was killed in an alleyway. So Elon is basically at John Lennon levels of fame if you look globally, and this guy just walking around on the street, just destroyed at peak $500 billion of crypto wealth. And I'm like, man, this is like kind of dangerous. But Jack, who's actually the greatest chronicler of crypto, in our 3-way chat with Bilal and Jack, he just sends like nonstop tweets about crypto. They're all so insightful. But Jack, why don't you say what the guy said about Elon and long-term thinking? Were you able to internalize that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's there's two sides to the argument people are taking, right? One is like just so eccentric and messing around, and then the other side is this guy thinks on a time frame that is imperceptible to most people. It's like you're trying to create an interplanetary species and like move an entire planet onto a different source of renewable energy. Right. So is it feasible that this like toying with the monetary system, that he doesn't have some bigger idea at play that is very difficult to fathom, and there's like some 8D chess going on in order to like bring about some massive amount of change. I don't know what I make of it, but it's an interesting way to articulate the argument as well. You could also just say he's pissing around because he wants attention and more clicks and more Tesla orders or whatever else. But it's very difficult to imagine being able to hold those two ideas in your head, right? Like I'm full-time joking about crypto, and I'm also like trying to develop some rocket that can land itself. It's kind of bizarre.
Well, Alex, you said you did fintech previously. What are your thoughts about what Jack just said about Elon working on this like 50-year time scale?
I don't know if I buy that in regards to Elon and his views on crypto, but what I do think is like, I personally feel like Bitcoin has just been a series of memes over the last decade, like finally compounding into what it is today. And I think Elon is finally trolling back the Bitcoin trolls over the last decade. So I view him as a modern day god. I'm just kidding. But I do think like it's not unsurprising that Elon is taking the same playbook that all the Bitcoin bros have done for the last 5 years and just doing it at a much larger scale. And the whole thing is the whole thing is subject to volatility with people's perceptions. I'm not sure. I still don't necessarily fully understand how Bitcoin works and like why it has a value, which makes it even more volatile to me when people are doing stuff like Elon is.
Jack, this is your sailor moment.
Alex to put his entire allocation.
By the end of this, we're going to get Trung and Alex all in. So, no, I mean, it's a fair point.
Pomp told me to buy like 10K of Bitcoin a month ago, and it was at 50K, and I was like, do I do it? And then I decided not to. I'm very happy I didn't. Wait,
Alex, are you also at zero like me?
Yeah, no Bitcoin. Oh,
no you'll be on CNBC in no time, dude.
Just Doge. all I own is a little bit of Doge.
I had a question about I read a tweet the other day about, I think it was Pomp, talking about like your journalistic requirement to not hold or to disclose assets that you hold when you're reporting a story. Like, are we like just beyond the ability to keep track of that at this point? Trung, is there any like?
I mean, like I'll tell you from my experience. Like, so I moved like when I was trading more in 2020 in really, really awful trades. I'm moving in and out of so many names, right? It's like it got to a point where I'm like, man, I literally just wrote to my editor. I'm like, should I just write disclaimer? Like the author of this article may or may not own this asset mentioned in the future or has in the past. Like it's just gone to the point where I'm just there's so many things happening, right? You should, frankly, you should, but I think at this point it should just be the understanding should just be put that disclaimer. Listen, I might go in, I might have been in, like just
well, that's not a disclaimer though, is it? That's basically like disclaimer, anything might be true.
Yeah, it's just like
you're like I may or may not be in.
No, exactly, right? Like
the sky may or may not be blue.
Yeah.
Or you just call the podcast, not investment advice, and you can do anything you want.
There you go.
No, I mean, like there have been a couple. So you guys will laugh, but the last time I was on CNBC, I'm just gonna, as many times as I can mention the words I was on CNBC, I'm just gonna keep doing it. So I wasn't pumping Cathie Wood. I was just saying, you know what, I kind of get what she's doing, but I'd written a couple of Cathie Wood articles in the past. And there's like, hey, man, can you just add a disclaimer that you own? I'm like, man, I didn't even own it at that time. Like, you're asking me to go back in time and add a disclaimer because I was on CNBC, which, fair enough. It was like, it's very visible.
Who's asking you that? Right? They also asked you that.
My team, yeah.
Yeah.
Trung, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Were you on CNBC?
Twice, 2 times. The real question is, how many times were you on CNBC? I actually wanted to do a quick spiel on Elon because I did do a little bit of research on his PayPal days. And one of the big things that pissed people off on Sunday when he got into that beef with the Bitcoiners was that they're like, oh, look, Elon like pulled out the credential card, right? He's like, he did the whole like elementary school student like, oh, I've been thinking about this. You guys might have heard of PayPal. And but there's actually a really good interview where he walked through like his whole thinking on PayPal. I mean, like, so this guy was has been thinking about payments and monetary system currency clearly for 20, 30 years, right? And the reason why he started X.com, which merged with Confinity, which Peter Thiel founded to become PayPal, was that he sold Zip2 for like 300 mil, which was like a location services company. He sold that to Compaq. He pocketed 16 mil after tax. But here's the thing. He wanted to do sustainability stuff from his early 20s, but he saw the internet was growing. He's like, shit, I'm going to play around the internet. He did his first Silicon Valley play, sold it. But then he's like, you know what? I want to do one that's even bigger than this. I want to take on a highly regulated industry, but he's also like, his criteria was what uses information, but is extremely low bandwidth. And he looked at two things. He looked at video and he looked at money. And he's like, internet's not ready for video. This is 99. And he's like, money, very low bandwidth, right? And the institutions that exist, banks, are just fucking dinosaurs. And it was the first time actually that he took on a highly regulated industry. And people don't remember this, but Elon got very far. He was one of the first FDCI backed banks on the internet. He had 200,000 subs, had deals with like Visa, and he ended up getting booted from PayPal when they combined. But I mean, this guy's been thinking about information and money for a very long time, right? And his whole point about money, and which I would think would be interesting regarding Bitcoin, is this. He says money, the only purpose of money is to allocate resources, right? A lot of people think that, but he literally just says it straight. It's like, the only reason I think about money is where does labor go and how do I direct it in the right direction? So that is the frame I think he'd be looking at Bitcoin is like, can I use Bitcoin as a way to divert labor in certain directions? And Bitcoin might not be the best move, right? It's a store value, not necessarily medium of exchange or medium of account. But anyways, the guy's fucking been thinking about it, man. All these haters need to like lay low.
Trunk, can I ask a question for you? Well, for everyone? Like, do you realistically think though? And I think everything you said is really true. Like, he's clearly, like, he knows what he's doing. Like, he's not just messing around completely. But even if he knows what he's doing, he might be doing it just for fun. We don't know. But realistically, when they put that amount of money on Tesla's balance sheet, surely someone who his life is dedicated to like environmental impact and Tesla and renewables, like, surely you must know what they eventually tweeted a few months later, right? Like, 100%. It seems a bit crazy. So, so the fact that he's saying now, okay, yeah, Bitcoin uses a lot of energy or whatever he said, it seems to me like that seems kind of stupid. Like, so I started losing a little respect when I was like, okay, like, I got to separate my own kind of bias too, because I'm obviously a fan of crypto as well. But I was like, dude, you're just messing around with people so much by this point. It's tough to figure out.
Well, the last comment I have on this before anyone wants to opine is just basically, I just think he's realizing that he can control. I mean, he already knew it with Tesla, right? He could tweet his way to a $600 billion company, essentially. And he's doing the same with what really is the next store of value that can compete with gold. And he's just like, fuck, I have all this power. Like, why not see where I can take it and the boundaries of it, right? Listen, man, Henry Kissinger said power is the greatest aphrodisiac, dude. Like, how's this guy going to stop? He's seen how much power he has.
Yeah, you know, the other thing, I was listening to that Balaji, well, we talked about that a few episodes ago, Balaji, Tim Ferriss, this idea of post-economic, like, you're an individual that's like your concept of money for like, as it relates to your personal life has evaporated, right? It's like, doesn't even like the money you spend as an individual doesn't even really factor into your decisions. So like, I would imagine you just get like these like heady conceptual rabbit holes about what it is. And that's maybe where this stuff comes from. Other people are like looking at the price go up or down $1,000 and it's like changing the direction of their life. He's like thinking about it very differently than the typical person, right?
Well, actually, I have a question for Alex. Alex, you see like how obviously Elon is using kind of the memeing. He understands, attracts an audience, and he's able to direct out on things. When you, and I mean, some people you work with are shitposting, it obviously makes you more likable, more relatable. Do you see that helping with recruiting? Do you see that like, where do you see that tangibly affecting your business?
Oh, I mean, it impacts everything. Like, I've met so many people just because I get messages saying, I love your tweets. I hate watching all this like reading all these thoughtfluencer posts on Twitter, all this stuff. So it helps, recruiting, meeting co-investors, meeting companies, all that. I think people find the genuineness very, very relatable. I think at Elon's scale of 60 or 70 million followers on Twitter now, he's probably the only person in the entire world who is actively tweeting about this stuff with that large of an audience. Like, he moves markets more than CNBC does, or more than Fox, or more than and this is the first time in history that we've had someone with legitimately, like, there is a cult following behind Elon, but there's like, everyone knows about him. Just so many tens of millions of people. And so when he says something, it has a ripple effect. Now, crypto is not regulated by the SEC, so I don't know what sort of repercussions there are for him just, tanking billions of dollars in value. But this is the first time ever that we've got a publicly facing figure incessantly tweeting about something that's related to financial markets. And so I think you're seeing like the power of the internet at scale. Yeah. I mean, you look at like GameStop, right? And you've got a non-crypto, like an actual publicly traded company that now, look at the power of Reddit and communities and the internet and just how fast information spreads. And all of a sudden you've got, like, the stock market has always been a large part based on people's emotions and like not actual fundamentals of companies. And now you've got that at scale on the internet with people who have massive audiences being able to move things. And so I mean, none of this existed 5 years ago. So we're seeing the very first inklings of the ability for financial markets to be even more unstable than they are, and then unregulated assets to be very unstable because of people's perceptions. So, and even this last year, you look at Robinhood's growth and Public's growth and all these like all the apps that let people trade stocks. Everyone moved online for doing this stuff. It's just a massive shift into internet information spread.
You said it very eloquently, Alex. I think like the fundamentals are evaporating from like the rest of the market, at least how people make decisions about these things. But all of Elon's companies operate from a different definition of fundamentals, right? Which is, I think, influences the way he talks about everything and thinks about everything, where it's like, rules don't apply to me. What, you have to make something and then sell it for more than you paid for it? No, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'll make the difference up in 300 years when we're on Mars, right? So like, that's a complete different way of thinking. And I think that is like bleeding into these like crazy rants on money. Yeah.
I mean, you also look at what he's done, and he took on, I mean, like him or not, he took on two very massive antiquated spaces that no one thought that they could break into traditionally. Like and he did it well. Like, you look at Tesla's execution, and, they've had their problems, but when's the last time you heard of a car company coming to market at mass market like that?
Oh, it's 100 years. It's literally over 100 years.
Yeah. Same thing with space. Like, can you think of any other space companies besides NASA and SpaceX?
Blue Origin, obviously, but that's just like another billionaire. That's just, multi-hundred billionaire, right? It's like two guys in the world literally can do it.
Well, I haven't done my research on this, but like solar, what's the solar business
Solar
called?
City.
Solar City, yeah.
Is that still going?
Yeah, it combined with Tesla.
And so Solar City and Starlink, like, this is another layer to it, where it's like a network, like the infrastructure network, energy, internet, communication, like, plug money into that. It's like you're building your own little universe that doesn't operate by the rules that have been entrenched by System X or mathematical valuation of companies that written by Benjamin Graham or whoever else. It's just
well, and you look at what he said on SNL, where he's like, do you really expect that I would be a normal person doing all this stuff? And like, no, I mean, I've thought about this for a while. Like, there's no way someone who is that absolutely delusionally, like, just enough sanity to make these things happen realistically, like, is not going to be a normal person, is not going to be a sane person. And now you're seeing that translate to the next thing that he's obsessed with, which is crypto, whether it's Doge or Bitcoin or whatever. I don't know if you guys saw Ford announce their electric truck last night, and I'm obsessed with it. If I was Elon, I would be shitting myself right now, because I think
best-selling car in America for 39 years.
Dude, the Ford F-150 sold 600 or 700,000 units in 2020. And you talk about, I'm really excited because I eventually believe everything's going to be electric. We're going to have electric grids, batteries going to be able to be charged in 10 or 20 minutes instead of 2 hours. And now you have the most popular truck in America, like most popular with most of what America's demographic is now getting access to an electric vehicle that caters to them. I'm super excited.
I read something about like I think it was an example in like phone manufacturing. It's like the innovator rarely, like, was that you that posted that, Trung? Like the innovator rarely like survives for decades and decades. So Nokia, for example, with phones, like came and popularized it, and then everybody with the infrastructure and the operational excellence comes in.
Second mover, like the second or third mover comes in. No, you're right.
Same with Google. Google wasn't the first search engine. Facebook wasn't the first social network.
Social network, yeah.
Do you guys remember Rogan when Elon was on Rogan the first time? There's just this great clip. We could probably clip it out, but he goes, he literally says Alex's point. He's like, Rogan's like, so what's it like in your brain? He's like, trust me, you don't want to be in here. It's like, it's the greatest. He's just like, trust me, I can't turn it off, right? Like, I can't turn this thing off. Actually, I'll tell you a crazy story. Elon flew up pre-COVID to a party in Victoria, BC. And he showed up at like 2 a.m. on a lavender farm in Victoria, BC. He came with, I think, 3 of his kids. Owen Wilson was at this party, totally random. But I'm in British Columbia, so I knew a couple of people that went to this party. It was like very secretive. And my buddy, Elon shows up at 2 a.m. and he just walks up to this party. And my buddy kind of bumps into him and like was just observing him, said hi. And then obviously you're going to watch what Elon's up to, right? And Elon just kind of stood in a corner and like stared at a light for like 40 minutes. And my buddy's like, this guy's probably trying to solve like how to land a rocket on Mercury right now. He's just like staring at a light for 40 minutes. But that was one thing I want to add. The other one I want to add about Alex's point on emotions kind of dictating investing was this is a massive name drop. I'm waiting to name drop it. But I interviewed Stanley Druckenmiller last week. Literally the Mount Rushmore of investors. He's the guy that broke the Bank of England, made $1 billion on a trade shorting the pound. But he's just telling me this story that made me feel so good. We'll publish it. It's been out there before, but I heard it. I was like blown away. At the top of the dot-com bubble, this is literally one of the greatest investors ever. He had 2 portfolio managers underneath him. He was he was shorting the dot-com bubble. And it was going so badly. He's losing so much money that he finally turned around, went long, made a bunch of money in 99. And then in early 2000, he took his money, all the markets, like this is insanity. But then he saw his 2 portfolio managers underneath him ripping. The bubble was still going. He fucking gets on the phone and puts a $6 billion bet in. And he said that he called the top of the market by about 10 minutes and he lost $3 billion. Literally one of the greatest investors ever. And he couldn't stop himself. He literally couldn't stop himself. And the way he just capped it off was like saying, like, hey man, what did you learn from that lesson? Like everybody always asks him, what did you learn from buying at the top of the dot-com bubble? He's like, I learned nothing. I knew this 20 years ago. I knew that I shouldn't have done this 20 years ago, right? It's like, I couldn't stop myself. It's like, it was literally impossible. So fuck, man, like 8 million or 10 million, 50 million people on their phone right now. They can't stop themselves because how fucked up investing is.
Yeah, it's illegal gambling.
Yeah, completely. Gambling. You talked about emotion. That's a big point because I think like a lot of us who've owned crypto for some time, a lot of people will say, oh, I wish I bought more. And then when you're in a bull market, everyone's like, oh, I'm going to keep buying on the way up and I'm going to dollar cost average and I wish it was half the price. And then when it happens, that's the moment of truth. So I'm curious for like someone like Jack who I don't know how much you can share of actual amounts, but we've seen it, some of it in your account on this podcast. We know you've got quite a significant amount of money in crypto from Ethereum or Ether, Bitcoin before that. So like, I'm curious, like for you, this, when was it? 1 or 2 days ago, when you wake up and you've got a bunch of notifications and you've got like all the red, like I open my app and I'm like, 30-40%, everything's down, and I have like my portfolio set up and I see a huge loss, obviously. Like I'm curious, like how did you feel, man? Because like how'd you deal with that? Because like a lot of people just like were texting me like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to sell? Someone else said I've just like liquidated to USDT or whatever. I'm like, no, this is literally everything you're not supposed to do if you're holding long term. So just like, I'm curious, like you seem pretty chill about it, but like any thoughts there?
Yeah, I'd buy more. So
There we go. That's the way.
Did you buy more?
Yeah. But normally,
yeah. Of course.
So I learned this lesson. I think like this is my like tiny. I think it was when COVID was hitting for the first time. My Twitter feed, I was on Zero Hedge every night. So I was like, fuck, like, wearing a mask in my apartment. By that point, I was like, the world's ending, man. Celia, the world's ending. Like, clear out the closet. We're gonna get some beans. We're gonna get a gas stove. It's over. It's over. Yep. Sell your stocks. Get everything. I got out of everything, and then I was like, looking back, reflecting on that thesis. I was like, my prediction was, what was I going to do? Just like, I was trying to get my cash out so I could spend it. So like when I have money to spend while the world ends, was like, what kind of thesis?
You got to buy a toilet roll with something, man. You can't pay for it in Bitcoin.
What was I going to do? It was like pure emotion, right? That moment was like pure emotion, idiocy. And it's like, has my thesis on any of this stuff changed? And I think that was like just seeing the market rebound for that and miss all of it was just like, that was the most moronic shit I ever did in my life. And a year or 2 years later, you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, obviously in hindsight, humanity is going to figure out the problem and march forward. And if you're reasonably diversified, you should it will tick back up eventually, right? You're either betting on human ingenuity long term or you're not. And that to me was has my belief in Ethereum and Bitcoin changed in the last 48 hours? No. So why would I sell more? There is a valid point though with if someone like Elon is determined to destroy it, it's a bit different because you are and I tweeted about this yesterday. It's if Elon Musk's tweets are can have an extreme impact on your financial future, you may be allocated very poorly and
overexposed, a little bit overexposed.
Slightly overexposed. And I believe that to be true, but the way it's really it's like a zero or a ridiculous outcome. That's kind of the allocation strategy on my end. I'm not Pomp, 98% Bitcoin or anything like that, but definitely probably a financial advisor would be that's a little bit aggressive to say the least.
It's a little bit aggressive.
Alex, what did you do in March last year? Did you go all cash?
No, so I actually bought in March right before the big dip at that time. Thinking I sort of definitely underplayed the effect COVID would have. I thought it was going to be a very minor flu-like type of thing, and obviously it's not. That was first week of March before everything started getting crazy. One of my best friends, he's a he invests professionally. I forget what his actual job is, but he actually professionally invests with a hedge fund. And he said something to me maybe a year and a half ago that stuck with me, which is if you just expand out a stock market chart over a long enough period of time, stocks never go down. The market only goes up. And so I always took that, I think about that with everything. I'm just I'm buying in and I'm forgetting about it for 20 years. And if it continues to hold true for the next 20 years, stocks will never go down. And so, there's been dips, of course, to 1999, 2007, 2019, or whatever the fuck, the market crashed recently and then came back up. But over a long enough time horizon, your stocks never go down. And so the longer you hold, the higher chance you have of it continuing to go up and to the right. And so I don't try to day trade. I don't try to buy and sell stocks. I just throw it all into ETFs and some individual stocks and just sit on it for years and forget that it exists.
Well, you also angel invest too, which is the same, right? You just never see it until there's an outcome or there's a scandal.
Yeah. I'm actually reading the Theranos story right now, Bad Blood, the whole story about.
Oh my God, it's
amazing.
It's so good, and it irritates me so much reading through it and just reading parts of those stories. But angel investing is interesting, and I invest as part of more an angel fund. So a bunch of operators have put in money, and then I invest larger checks besides my own capital. But you have you're forced to hold it over a long time horizon, and you're forced to take very binary risks on very binary outcomes. So it's a lot different than public investing. But I love it. Like the best thing for me is meeting a founding team who's actually doing something interesting and like in the trenches doing hard work and being able to write them a check and then see how it goes over a period of time.
How much do you factor in the humor in their Twitter feeds as an investing criteria?
Some of my best investments, the founders have no Twitter presence at all, which is probably a good thing.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, we talked about this for sure.
Company performance is inversely related to how much they tweet.
I was actually saying, in the early episode, I was giving the opposite thesis. I'm like, if you look at what's the name of the WeWork guy?
Adam Newman.
Yeah, Adam Newman, and then the Theranos founder. They both had zero. All their media was done through filtered mediums, right? So my thesis, which is the opposite of what Alex just said now, was I think if you are being public facing through filters like New York Times, Wall Street Journal, New Yorker, but you have no Twitter presence, that to me is a red flag because you just want everything handheld. You don't want to stress test your ideas. Like, Aaron Levy's just out here fucking tweeting the left, right, and center for a $10 billion public company. Actually, Box, I don't know if it's 10 billion, maybe 5 billion. But anyway, I have a lot of awful theses. And that might be one of them.
No, I think that's right. It's like as a founder, you're afraid to have any sort of negative hit on your persona. You're afraid of like not having a perfectly clean media, like public perception. That is a red flag. And I've seen founders who are like that, where they just are like, something negative potentially could happen and they go into full crisis mode. I'm like, oh, chill the fuck out. No one remembers anything in a week from now. Like you could literally think about the number of like VCs who have come out now with terrible sexual harassment claims. Like no one remembers them 2 years later. And so people have
They're on the
short-term
Midas
memory.
list. They're back at the top of the Midas list.
God.
It's just that's just how I view tweeting as well. And like my goal is to never cancel myself, but it's just no one's gonna remember a tweet of mine from I don't even remember my own tweets from 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Famous last words, dude.
Yeah. Famous.
Someone's listening to this right now and creating a before and after.
But they're screenshotting all my tweets.
Hey,
all right,
I was thinking about this just before we got on. I was trying to change my mic. I was like, this episode, right? Imagine if you're watching your grandparents do a podcast 80 years ago. You'd probably be like, most of the things they said, you're probably like, oh, you can't really say that anymore.
Dude, could you imagine?
That's why we got one beep an episode for Trunk. He normally says
hold on a second. Wait, I got to do my victory lap. On the last episode, the day after Bill Gates' divorce news comes out, I go, guys, I got a text from my billionaire friend. He runs in these circles. All he did was send me a picture of Gates and Epstein. He says, I think this is what happened. Sure enough, a week later, front page news, Bill Gates hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, strained marriage. God, I need to get in these circles,
Head of the game, son. That's been a crazy week.
Well, I had one more joke about that. Just because I like to throw jokes out there.
Just scheduled jokes.
Listen, you want to know how big? I mean, everybody knew. I mean, I was telling you guys, this guy's a pussy hound, right? They're fucking pussy hounds. This shouldn't be shocking to anybody. You want to know what kills me about Jeff Bezos? Jeff Bezos almost died in a helicopter accident in 2003. Just Google it, helicopter, Texas, Jeff Bezos. He was looking for land to start Blue Origin. Do you know what his mistress and now girlfriend or partner does as a living? She's a helicopter instructor. This dude is such a pea hound. This guy almost died 17 years ago. He's willing to woo her by doing what? Dude, he takes helicopters lessons with her just to be with her. He almost died 17 years ago in a helicopter.
Sounds like true love to me, Trunk.
Dude,
I think you.
It's so listen, 4 guys on this pod. I'm not going to generalize, but we know the feeling of this guy. This guy's like, yo, I almost died in a helicopter. I don't care. I'm going after her, man.
I just see the 4 grins right now. So.
Oh, man. You know what's true? That's it. Bilal, next
No,
topic,
it's good.
please.
No, I think we're good on that. Do we finish off? A couple of other things to bring up on the Bitcoin stuff, because we kind of talked about one of the catalysts being Elon and Tesla, which I think was obviously a huge part of this. A second one we didn't get to talk about was Bitcoin pizza. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but
yeah, I just saw Alex's head nod.
This look, we all fans of Pomp on the show. Like we've talked about
I'm
before.
a fan, bro. I'm a fan.
I think Pomp was there. I also thought this was hilarious. It was brilliant, but the timing was so crazy. Like the fact, I mean, I know Trung, you put up a tweet of like the drop, and you put.
Oh, I didn't. I sent it to you guys if you wanted to tweet it. It was like the pizza fit perfectly inside.
Well, yeah,
that's what I sent that to people as well. I was like, I don't want to send this right now, but you can.
Alex, you did it. Yo, I'm telling you, me and Alex, man, that's ESP, bro. Alex, okay, so I know you chat with Pomp too, Alex. What was your? Let's get you.
Well, actually, before that, could we just share, because a lot of people haven't seen what it is, so let's just quickly share what it is. One of you could share if you want. What was it? Because it's happening this weekend, Saturday, I think. Does anyone want to say? Or I can summarize it if you want.
Yeah,
I don't really understand fully. I still think it's just Domino's white labeled with Bitcoin on the boxes.
Pretty much. So yeah, what happened is Pomp announced bitcoinpizza.com or something like that. And it was like this weekend coming up, people can go on this app or on the website and order pizza, and it was like a pizza box that was custom made for them and stuff like that. And they created basically like a ghost kitchen network or whatever, where local pizzerias will make pizzas for you and deliver it to you. I'm sure lots of people will post it and kind of celebrate. It's a great like marketing campaign basically for Bitcoin. But the crazy timing is it literally was a day or so just before this huge crash, and then obviously people are having fun with that as well. So but yeah, back to what you were asking Alex. So Trung, do you want to say that again for Alex?
Yeah, I just want to say what Alex's thoughts of the whole thing, where I know he's a fan of shitposting and is clearly on the same level, but he's also friends with Pomp. So give us the rundown.
I mean, look, like it's hard to find people who have conviction in something for that long of a period of time. Like he has been pumping, is what I call his pumping Bitcoin since like 2011, and just continues to do. I'm sure he's got a shit ton of holdings in Bitcoin from coming in at a really cheap cost basis, but I don't know. I've gone back and forth on like muting, unmuting, because I can't have my feed full of Bitcoin stuff all day long. But I respect the fact that he's like stuck to his guns over the last decade and like went from I think at one point he was in the army, and then he was at Snapchat, and then just like Bitcoin. And so, but you know, he's you know, it's definitely not an overnight thing for him, but I definitely find it's just a lot to consume. I wish Twitter just gave me a way of like reducing the number of tweets I saw per person, because I want to see some of them, which are interesting, but not like to the moon, like 10 times in my feed in an hour.
Yo, unfollow. You might want to mute Jack. No, I'm playing.
Just mute Bitcoin and Miami. Those two words together will reduce like 90% of the tweets I see.
Yeah.
I wanted to hop over, and I did want to talk about BitClout a bit before Alex left, and that's kind of what I want to talk about, Jack. First of all, so for people that don't know, BitClout is this decentralized social network. It just looks like a cheap version of Twitter, but apparently a lot of top-notch investors are into it, like Chamath, Naval, Sequoia. I think even Andreessen, probably Andreessen for sure.
I heard Balaji say on My First Million, he said he was invested too.
Balaji's in it. And so, yeah, TLDR is this social network, decentralized social network, whatever, lets you invest into people's profiles. I was once at 200,000, now I'm at 80,000, so I no longer use the platform. I hate it. But what I will say is funny is I asked Jack about it when it came out like 6 to 8 weeks ago. And Jack's like, I can't hop on just yet. I got to see how this plays out. I have a brand to protect. So Jack, you joined this week. Can you tell us what you saw and what's happening with you and Pamela Anderson in this last couple of 48 hours?
Well, the Balaji endorsement was like the signal where I was like, I'm comfortable with this now. Like I've consumed a lot of that guy's work. It's like, I like the way he thinks. And the signal from the platform itself, they open sourced the code. So all of the criticism of it over the last few months was like, somebody's running some scam here. Everyone's going to get rugged. And, you know, the founding team is just going to like pull all the funds. But now they've released the code, and people a lot smarter than me have read the code and seem to think that it's legit. obviously there's some incentive there. Balaji is an investor in it, so maybe you can subtract that from the endorsement a little bit. But there's also the thing we talked about a couple of weeks ago. I got a bunch of Twitter accounts banned. So there's just an interesting thing to play with there. It definitely feels like logging on to AOL Instant Messenger in
back in 2003,
right? It's like, it's a little dodgy, it's rough around the edges, like stuff doesn't send every time you press the button. But there's something cool about like how nascent it is. And I've had a few people I've met over the last few years that have just seen like huge inflection points in their business from like adopting a network as it grew. So TikTok's a good example of that. Like, got friends that have built brands on TikTok where the supply and demand is just completely skewed to the point where if you're a creator on a platform that has more eyes, and that's true of all platforms, but this one has a global feed right now, right? So you can post and everybody on the platform sees it. It's not like Twitter where you're curating your feed. Everybody's posts go into the global feed because there's not enough traffic for that to be a complete shitstorm, right? So I think it's like part hedge, part experiment, part like I've got a few little crypto projects going on. So like getting into that community, meeting people over there. Yeah, got the Pamela Anderson follow this morning. So that's a lot of validation there.
But you said she's actually involved, like she's like a legit person on there, first of all, it sounds like. And yeah, she's she's in this space a little.
She's she's pushing for decentralization, man, and she's been what?
I'm just looking at Trunk's face. I know he's got 4 jokes going in his head that he's keeping there.
She's Canadian. I'm gonna keep it clean.
That's four big Trunk.
I just feel like 2017 was too early for the ICO scam year, like the year of the ICO scams, and now it's all happening in 2021. Like for me, BitClout just feels like personal ICOs, and I don't get it. Maybe I'm missing something, but I feel like everyone again forgot about what happened in 2017, where every single company that did an ICO was investigated, and now we're just shitcoins are through the roof, and everyone has their own personal coin.
Yeah.
Well, can I just add one point, Alex? I think, yeah, that's definitely a great point, but I'd say like ICOs were probably like 99% scams, and then one of them was Ethereum or like Ether or whatever. So like that was an ICO from what I understand. So like, especially when something is completely unregulated and there's charlatans trying to make money overnight, which we're seeing now with all the dog coins and the meme coins and cum rocket and all that stupid stuff. Like, right, we know that that's very short term, and like even someone like me who's trying to keep long term minded gets involved with that just for jokes. Do you know what I mean? So I can't, I'm like being hypocritical here, but I do think the idea of it in theory seems kind of stupid at first, but then I can see where there is value there, right? Like long term, right now Twitter and Facebook pretty much gain 99.9% of the value of the ecosystem, and then it used to be the fact that we would be able to build a decent audience where we actually get, you know, to speak to people directly, but now it's not really like that anymore. So it's interesting to see how something like a BitClout or something that's decentralized could potentially work. But again, who knows? There's like so many services that Twitter actually provides. Like they do some sort of moderation. They do keep bad stuff off the platform to the best of their ability. I don't know how that works on BitClout or something like that.
I mean, I guess I'm not sure if the argument is we want full freedom of speech and we don't want social media or companies to limit what we're saying, or if it's I want to monetize my own audience and I'm mad that Twitter's capturing my monetization. I have arguments against both. I think the thing that gets overlooked time and time again is if I don't actually think a decentralized social network is good, because the amount of shit that is filtered through that, like where we eventually see what we see, is just beyond anyone's comprehension.
That's so true.
That we would end up with just like the worst of the internet in a decentralized social network. And I don't think that that's actually what anyone wants. And so I actually think all these, sort of proponents of a decentralized social network, in their heart, they still want some level of moderation, because I think the last thing that they want to do is be posting all their stuff on a network that you have child porn coming through and people being trafficked and like money laundering and just all the stuff that's awful. There is a level of moderation that needs to happen. I don't know who draws that line in the sand. And that's like the debate that'll go on for forever. But it's just, and then on the argument of like, is Twitter actually capturing the market cap of your tweets and your audience? Well, one, everyone's on the platform, so you have distribution. And two, you get to do things like host a podcast or launch a company or do whatever and convert your following. And it's like you can monetize your following in other ways that isn't directly related to engagement. So
definitely,
at least on Twitter's profile.
Yeah, that's a fair point, man. Look, I don't. Have you guys watched the QAnon documentary on HBO?
No,
I started it.
I just started watching it last night, and it was everything you were saying there. I was like, oh my god, this is the crazy. I've never been on any of those like 4chan and stuff, but like the stuff that the moderators must see is crazy. And even at like YouTube's, I used to work at YouTube for a while, Alex. Some of the people I know who are really junior, their job was to moderate like stuff that got put in the queue when they first died, and the stuff they would see, honestly, like all jokes aside, was like really, really terrible. That it's going to impact you mentally for many years.
Wait, hold on. These are like these weren't contractors. These are junior
so eventually
employees.
So eventually it became contractors. But when I started, it was 2010, and literally there were Stanford, Oxford, Cambridge grads I knew like that. Their job was what was called working in the bin. Bin is like trash can.
Oh my god,
right?
dude!
And that's like a Black Mirror episode, man.
Well, have you guys read? I think it was Casey Newton who did an article, like the profile on the Facebook contractors that work on modern. It was some of the worst shit I've read. Yeah.
So I can't believe that they had like Oxford and.
Man, it was crazy.
They got hired by Google. It's amazing. The people here are so nice. Free food.
Because when you start, like the first month is like you're learning AdWords, right? And one of the things someone has to do is look at disapproved ads. Sorry, this is different to the YouTube disapprovals, but it's a similar thing. You're seeing ads that are disapproved, and sometimes they're like display banner ads that have stupid stuff on it. But I know a lot of senior people who, like, even I worked with, they started in that job, and it was just kind of like a rite of passage. Like in the PR world, you're someone's assistant for 5 years and you're getting coffee. This was the equivalent of that. So thankfully I didn't have to do that. But Alex, how you doing for time? I know you got to run soon.
Let me double check.
All right, cool.
And Slack is down, so I guess that means that I can take off for the day, right?
Yeah, you're good, man. Well, we just found the best internal joke from Carbon. If the Slack's down, nobody's working.
Oh man, everything happens on Slack. It's been wild to see, like, not to get too serious, but just a company with product market fit growing at our scale to just see how things work inside.
Could you throw some numbers? Like, how big are you of valuation? Like, what kind of how many partners you have?
I can share what's public. So we raised the Series C in October at a $600 million valuation. The company was probably total of 800 employees at the time. Now, keep in mind, a lot of those are clinic staff, like people who work in clinics, doctors, et cetera. We're now 1,500 people. And so I think somewhere around that, our product team has gone from 8 or so when I joined back in February to over 20 now with open roles. Engineering's gone from 20 something, like close to probably 50, supposed to be like 80 or 90 at the end of this year. Like, we're growing like a weed. In terms of numbers, like, we're at probably 70 or 80 clinics.
What markets are you in, Alex? Sorry.
A lot of California. So a lot of like the suburbs of LA, Bay Area. But then we have locations in Reno, Nevada, Washington, Louisiana, Florida. Trying to think, we're in like 8 or 9 states. Nice. We do virtual care as well. No, it's amazing to see, like, the most competent people that I've worked with all work in this like chaotic environment because we're doing so much stuff. We've administered about 1.5 million vaccines in the last 2.5 months.
Wow.
And so to like,
that's
amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah, just to see that stuff. And that's a lot of the software I worked on when I started was just like all hands on deck for vaccines. It's been unreal. Like, just watching all these people work.
For Carbon, what is ultimate outcome? 5-10 years from now, you guys hit every major target. What does Carbon look like?
So our mission is to make world-class healthcare accessible to everyone, whether or not, it's the difference between us and some of the other like high-end primary care providers is they try to sell through employers and they charge yearly fees and blah, blah, blah. Our thesis is like by being a software company at our core, we can reduce the cost of care and then pass that cost on to people. In 10 years, we'd like to be the Starbucks of primary care. So a location on every corner is kind of the goal. And so when you think about I don't know how much I can give away, but there's a lot that involves like a hybrid approach between virtual care and then in-person care. There's a hybrid. There's a lot to do with like transparency and how you get access to your records and get referrals and order labs, things like that. So, but that's our goal, is to be at a shit ton of locations in 5 to 10 years.
If you're the Starbucks of healthcare, can I run your BitClout account in 10 years?
I don't see why not.
Head of content, head of shitposting.
Yeah, head of BitClout for Carbon Health.
I actually think we should step up our carbon health shit posting on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot to post about, dude. It's a crazy,
the
crazy
healthcare industry has no shortage of jokes, right?
100%, man. That's meme. That's like gold meme territory right there.
And I'm like, I feel like I know 1%. Not even. I probably know like 0.25% of how the healthcare industry works. It's this massive space that I still don't know. Like, I'm not a doctor. I don't come from a healthcare background. I come from a product background, and so I feel like I'm learning something new every day, or like every hour. Just I don't know how most of the stuff works, and the healthcare is big.
You actually had an amazing tweet. It was like something along the lines of, every time I think I'm smart, like I sit next to some dude that does CRISPR therapeutics. It's like, this guy is just fucking in like 10 seconds of talking. This guy knows, demonstrates more knowledge than I'll ever know.
Well, so that was inspired. So I had knee surgery like a little over 2 months ago. I tore my ACL trying to enjoy nature as it goes. And so
lesson, never enjoy nature.
Yeah, fuck that. Stay inside. Outdoors is scary. And so I was having surgery. I was like in the prep room, like waiting to have knee surgery. And the surgeon comes in and he's all chill. And he's like, "You ready?" I was like, "No, I'm not ready." And he's like, "It's chill, dude. I just did another one right before this." I'm like, what the hell? He's just going back and forth between
assembly
just
line.
Like surgery after surgery, like cutting into people. Then I watched a YouTube video and I was like, did I really go through that? And it's just amazing. I just feel so dumb compared to these people who can like cut into people's bodies and replace bones and ligaments and do all this stuff. And for them, it's super casual. Or you think about, the people who like invented the vaccines and like mRNA technology. I'm just like, what am I definitely like, if I took a dumb path, I'm an idiot. Like that's the path I went.
Yeah, but the surgeons, they can't scale their businesses, man. Jack will tell you there's no leverage in that business.
That's true. Man, and that's actually why we exist, for primary care.
Yeah. No, we had a baby 13 weeks ago, and like,
congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, and just like my interaction with the healthcare system has never been more frequent than in the last 13 weeks. And it's like, the system is horrible, but the people who work in it are just phenomenal, beyond
unbelievable.
Belief. It's just unreal, man. It's like whatever you can do to like make their lives easier and help them like help more people is just an incredibly worthy cause. So props to you.
We're expecting in 7.5 weeks, so I'm right behind you.
Yeah, buddy.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
Looks like we have the 3-way dad jokes. Bilal, sorry, dude, man.
Start a new WhatsApp thread.
Hold on. So I had some questions for Jack. Jack, you got the merch coming. Can you talk about the merch? Are you revving up the merch?
Look at the fresh hat, though.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, they're looking clean.
Jack
and the merch hoodie.
He's got a visualized value hat and a visualized value sweater. Is this all in response to you losing your Twitter accounts and you're like, I need to monetize? Honest question.
No, it's I mean, my wife is like, we need to be wearing, you go to the airport and stuff, and when people like wear the McKinsey vests and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you're out and about all day long. It's like you're a little walking billboard wearing some other brand. It's like, you need to wear your own stuff. So it's like, all right, I've got.
I love that she said that. That's great.
I love. Is that for sale? I could go for a sweatshirt like that. That just says merch. I love it.
It's on me, mate. It's on me. Send me your address. I'll get it to you.
Wait, Jack, how's that moving, by the way, man? Those are sick.
Yeah, it looks cool.
They're selling, man. Yeah, I'm doing 100. I'm doing 100 drop, a drop of 100 each, and most of it sells out pretty quick.
Oh my God.
But it's just fun, man. I like it's we don't like, you don't make a lot of money selling merch, right? Unless you're selling like ludicrous stuff. But it's fun to do we work with Printful, which is just ridiculously efficient business, like mind-blowingly. So
what do you mean?
So it's a Shopify plugin.
Okay.
So what you do is you can essentially customize a product in the back end of Printful. Say, I want this embroidered. I want it at that scale. They've got like, this is a Champion sweatshirt. So they've got like quality material that they put it on. And then their turnaround time, man, I don't know, man. This is like a logistical miracle, man. What they do is like in some cases, an order comes in, I'll get an email confirmation and it leaves their facility 2 hours later, embroidered, packaged.
That's incredible.
There's another company like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so there's another company like that. I forgot what it's called, but they let independent artists upload their art and then they sell it in posters and canvases and all this stuff. And then a lot of the money goes to the artist, and it's like drop shipping, basically on demand. It's really cool.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. And this is global, so they must have facilities, in certain logistically intelligent places, and they can get a hat from a Shopify store in the States to like an address in Singapore in 3 days. It's just mental.
Do you think you could turn this merch business into a 7-figure business? Honest question.
I have a thesis there.
Okay.
Come on, Alex.
I love the pause in there.
I love it. Alex is just nodding. He's waiting. The investor.
I believe that any competent product has at least $1 million in total addressable market to sell into. No matter what it is, you could invent the dumbest shit, and I guarantee that there are enough people that would buy $1 million worth of
like
that
a
product.
meme coin or something.
Anything. And if it works
you could sell
for
one.
if you could sell one, there's enough people in the world. You might just be a terrible marketer, and that's a different conversation. But you should be able to sell $1 million in gross merchandise value of it.
I love that.
That's a great. I think that's a great model for people to think about. Like, go and hustle for that first sale, and then the rest is logistics, marketing. Like, that's badass. Mm-hmm. So $1 million per product. That's the challenge now, Trung.
Hat, million, sweater, million.
No, I mean, it's a fun business. And I think like to have built a brand up and then have people interested in wearing it is like, it gives you an amazing feeling as well. It's like a pretty cool thing for have an endorsement that somebody's going to put it on themselves.
How many individual people has Visualized Value exchanged money with? Like individual customers?
Probably
How many
about
thousands?
12, 13,000.
Oh, so man, dude,
That's
you haven't
amazing.
even touched the surface yet. You haven't even like, I mean, dude, man, you haven't, like once you hit 100,000, you're laughing, right? That's crazy, dude.
Just real quick, I think Alex needs to kick. He was messaging. So, Alex, thanks for joining, man.
Hey, well,
we'll have to do this again. And thanks for bringing your shit posting to the pod today.
I know that
Happy to join whenever.
Well, we'd love to have you back.
I mean, that was quite interesting, actually. I'm just curious, Jack, like what else you got on the docket for the e-com stuff, man? Is it just like clothes and merch, or because I mean the first thing I think of is like artwork, which obviously you've done digital art with NFTs, but like I think when we first spoke, I literally said to you, oh, I would pay to have that print out of one of your pieces, like the This Is Pointless one, and it's just like you put it on the wall because it looks kind of cool, but it represents something too. So yeah, I'm curious like what else you'd be interested in doing.
Yeah, I did have, so I tested that maybe 18 months ago now when probably had 2,000 Twitter followers and did canvas prints. And
that's amazing.
Wait,
and they sold. There's a few that sold.
You were selling at 2,000 Twitter followers? Oh my goodness. Dude.
I love that, man.
Haven't turned it back on, but I don't know, man. You just get like, you get weirdly caught in these like, all in this or all in that. And I'm slowly like, you got to expand your SKUs, man. If you want to build a big
dude,
brand.
I really think the Crypto Chronicles, like you're joking about. So Jack, in our three-way chat that we have, a really popular three-way chat, Jack sent us just sends these. I mentioned it, he just sends all these amazing tweets from the crypto Twitter, and dude, I really think you could be a one-man just crypto media. I mean, there's a lot out there right now, but it's literally booming. Coinbase just announced they're hiring a team of 30 to build their own media arm, right? Like you could, I mean, I know you already do quote unquote media stuff, but like, man, Jack could really go all in.
I think you've been thinking about that, right, Jack, to do a lot more of this sort of stuff anyway.
Yeah, I think the premise, like, or the brand, right? Visualized Value as a vehicle to explain shit that a lot of people don't intuitively get. Like, it's the output of me trying to understand stuff that I did not previously understand, and crypto is one of the most incredible examples of that. There's like loads of commercial applications for it, but crypto is like this interesting cross section where you got enough people interested in it where it's like pop culture, I think finance in general is kind of getting that way, Trung, right? It's like your
100%.
Your Twitter account, and like what we're seeing is finance is pop culture. Like Elon is a celebrity. CEOs in the 80s or 70s, like who gives a shit who the CEO
no one
of
knows
a car
them,
company
no one
is? Like, I have no clue. But now, because all the barriers to entry to invest in are coming down, it's like, you know, you're bought into you're literally bought into these stories in the same way that, like, I don't know, you'd watch a TV show every week 20 years ago, you're invested in the plot. It's like now, you know, you have some skin in the game. Maybe only a fraction, like the Elons of the world, but even seeing Ford like trying to take to, you know, they got Biden to ride that F-150 yesterday, and like you're going to see way more like
people trying to break through, right?
Better execution on social for brands. Yeah. Crypto is just crazy though. It's like, how the hell do you even begin to start to curate this stuff when there's a 1,000 assets?
Have you started doing like your images for crypto to try to explain it?
I've done a few. Like I've had actually some client stuff in crypto, but it's so nuanced, and the people that are involved in it are like, I shouldn't generalize, but a lot of people involved in it are like very technical to the point where it's like, oh, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't exactly explain what's different about us. And it's like, crypto community is kind of like tearing each other apart for that reason, right? It's like, no, that's a shit coin. Everything that isn't this is an absolute like disgrace to humanity and should not be ever talked about. So you got to even be careful, like what you back as a brand if you want to retain the loyalty of
that was your big code thing, right? You're being very careful. That was part of your
a lot of people are like, this is a scam, dude. Like they comment on it, it's like, it's bullshit. It's like, well, go and read the stuff that I read yesterday and tell me why. But no, it's like the meme is in your head. That's how you're going to respond at that point.
I think also people have like old talking points that just kind of, they haven't like updated. The stuff is changing so quickly. Like honestly, the environmental impact of Bitcoin is kind of one of them. Like if you read a little bit more about it, you can find a little bit more information of like things that are going to change, proof of stake, that's going to reduce energy consumption, whatever. And but like it changes so quickly that people aren't following it completely. And then you get like the religious aspect, whereas B2C camp versus Ethereum, and then people like really invested in it because they have a bunch of money in it. So it's really hard to do that, man. Like everyone's just fighting for their own horse.
No, I was just gonna say one of the things you guys said, which was amazing, that made me think a lot, was you see a lot of people go from BTC to ETH, but not the other way around. Is that true?
It seems to be, anecdotally.
Okay.
Yeah, anecdotally. Not investment advice, but definitely.
Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about? I think that was a good episode. Nice to have Alex on. I know it was all over the fucking place, but listen, it's not investment advice, man. If you're here for proper produced podcasts or investment advice, you're in the wrong place. So we're here to chat. Do you guys have anything else you want to add? I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I'd say we didn't touch on during the chat is like zooming out. Right, like because the last few days have been kind of scary, in all seriousness for a lot of people. Like I've seen messages from people being like, oh, I put my life savings in this, and I'm like, this is terrible. And obviously us three are joking around all the time on here, but this is like a serious thing. And I think if you zoom out, you'll see that, there was a drop of 50-60%. But if you even look just at a 6-month time horizon, I think Ethereum is still up 400+%. Bitcoin is up double, 100% as well. So it's just like, in the grand scheme of things, this is a huge bull market. I don't think we're even in the bear market properly yet. So this could continue to drop significantly. So yeah, as always, no investment advice.
Listen, man, as a chartered financial analyst at one time, I mean, listen, let me just leave on 2 words. It's like, honestly, for the most people, if you're playing crypto, you should assume it's going to go to zero, right? Treat it as an angel investment. And that's number 1. And number 2 is, you should be looking at a long time frame, right? But I do understand that some people are going to get burned. That's just the nature of the beast. But treat it. You shouldn't treat it like, I know Jack's going to disagree. You really shouldn't treat it like, if you're not prepared to handle the volatility, you should treat it as if assuming it'll go to zero. Like that's the reality.
I disagree with that. I think that's good advice.
Yeah, it's good advice. It's good advice.
All right, guys, that's
that was a good episode.
Yeah, good episode, guys. Let's we'll talk next week.
Yeah, make sure you get your Bitcoin pizza this weekend and celebrate and huddle and stay calm and carry on. All right.
Indeed.